Hey y'all, I thought I'd share an Eastertide story from my childhood. This is an actual, factual accounting of a transformative event. Now, when I was in the 3rd grade, my grandmother Pansy came from West Virginia and moved in with Mother, Daddy, and I in our house in Miami. And she had a long career in food service industry, so she brought with her an incredible amount of knowledge, professional knowledge, but of course also Appalachian traditions and philosophies regarding cooking. She took over most of the cooking in the house, and this continued for many years, even as she aged, and even as a lot of her cooking techniques and recipes just didn't transform well to modern equipment and modern sensibilities. Now, my grandmother Pansy had what we like to say was a very vivid personality. When she would first meet a person, she would frequently, proudly say to them, "Just know, you better do anything I ever ask you to do, or I'll make you do it." She was vivid. So, this one day when I was in the 11th grade, it was springtime, Daddy and I had sat down to eat our dinner at the counter. Mother often worked late, so it was usually just Daddy and Pansy and I. And as was her custom, she served food to Daddy and I, and then she left the kitchen to go to her part of the house to test her blood sugar for her diabetes. And like I said, her cooking kind of deteriorated over time, so by the time I was in high school, what Daddy and I would do is as soon as she would leave the room, we would scrape whatever it was on our plates down the sink. When she came back in, we'd say, well, we ate it up real quick, we got stuff to do. And then we would go find provision elsewhere if we were still hungry. Well, this one time, that Eastertide, she came back in a lot quicker than we expected. She caught us putting the food down the sink, and she said, "Why are you putting the food down the sink?" And Daddy looked at me in a panic and said, oh, we're on diets. And she said, "Well, y'all can't be on a diet and eat nothing. You got to eat something. Why don't you eat some of my cake?" Well, she had made the traditional family yellow cake, white frosting with coconut, festooned with jelly beans and decorated, in fact, with these very tiny little darling rabbits. And it sat under a cake dome on the dining room table. Well, Daddy and I looked at each other. We really couldn't get out of it. So we sat down and she cut each of us a generous slice of cake, put it on plates in front of us, and then stood there and watched. Well, Daddy gave me a look that let me know I needed to take one for the team. So I took a big bite first, and I started eating it, and I realized there was something off. I couldn't figure out what it was, so I didn't say anything. Well, Daddy looked at me, and he took my silence to mean that it was acceptable. So he took a big bite. And just as he got that big bite of cake in his mouth, I swallowed, and I looked to my grandmother, and I said, "There is something odd about this cake. It's smoky tasting." And she smiled, and she said, "Yes. I decided it would be smart. You know how I bake off cooking every week and then save the grease? Well, I put bacon grease in the cake, and I use bacon grease for the buttercream frosting. No butter, bacon grease." That's right, friends. Bacon grease cake with bacon grease frosting, covered in coconut, festooned with jelly beans. Now, y'all know I'm a traditionalist, and I like to carry on the traditions of my family no matter how odd they are. So every year I make the coconut cake, usually cupcakes though. See? I've been making them tonight. Aren't they cute? Yeah, the jelly beans, the coconut, and, well, y'all just have to figure out how traditional I am. Springtime greetings. Stay steady, friends. Stay steady.